What are the strangest house rules you've seen in a person's house? At one of my ex-girlfriend's house on Christmas Day, both myself and my girlfriend's sister's boyfriend were told to go down into the basement while the rest of their extended and immediate family opened presents. I had never met this guy before, and we were the only two people down there, all because the older members of the family didn't want outsiders to see what they had bought their relatives. Did they think we were going to steal something? There were something like 35 people in the house, so while I thought we would only be shunned for a few minutes, we ended up staying in the basement for 2 hours before my girlfriend called us back upstairs. Apparently the guy I was stranded with had been there for multiple Christmas celebrations and was usually told to just go sit by himself. This was a normal thing for this family. Jokes on them, though. I had a much better time playing pool with the guy than I ever would have interacting with their family, who I came to discover over time were really bitter, uncaring people. I babysat for a family that locked us in the house. I called my dad, and he said if I felt trapped I could throw a chair through a window and he'd cover it, no questions asked. Never babysit for them again. A friend of mine had a super mean and strict stepmother. Here are a few rules I can remember from her house. She had to make her bed every day, but the dust ruffle had to be so many inches from the floor and even around the bed. The sheets and comforter had to be done just so. If it wasn't, she would come in and rip them all off the bed and make my friend redo it. We were only allowed to play with one item at a time. For instance, if we wanted to play Barbies, we each were only allowed to take one out of the box at a time. If we wanted to switch out, say, a child doll or a Ken doll, the Barbie had to get put back into the box. They had phones in every room. The only phone I was ever allowed to use was in the creepy basement. Also, we were only allowed to use the bathroom in the creepy basement, which sucked since there was one right next to my friend's room. Last I can remember is that she was only allowed to have one friend allowed to play in the house. She was allowed to have 2 friends play in the backyard. Never any more than 2. She wouldn't actually let us into the house. She threw a housewarming party and we were all excited about attending, but instead she herded us all into her garage and locked us in there. There was a door in the garage that led into the kitchen that she would only unlock if someone wanted the bathroom. She would then escort the person to the toilet and stand outside the door until they were done, take them back to the garage and lock the door again. The garage was empty as well. Not even so much as a deck chair or box to sit on. The guests did not stay long. I left in under an hour and the rest not long after. She was offended after she put so much effort into having us over. I landed a summer babysitting job when I was 15 or 16 and got yelled at because I took Cheetos, Doritos and pretzels and put them all in the same bowl. They were snack-sized bags, and I'd eaten the whole bowl full, but there must have been crumb evidence for Sherlock Mom. She said we don't mix our food in this house. And then she fired me soon after because she said she wasn't comfortable with me doing stuff like that around her kids. A friend I visited a few times when I was a kid had really strange parents. One weird thing was when my mum called his mum to arrange a time, his mum said that she'd like it if I brought a shirt I'd already worn to their house. She said they had a rescue dog that lost its shit around new people and would keep it in the bathroom for my first visit, then put my shirt in its bed so it got used to my scent for next time. I fucking did it too. Dog still went nuts. There were wacky bathroom rules, like if I had to go seed, say 1 or 2, then she would carefully count the number of squares and hand it to me. This was particularly embarrassing since I had a little crush on my friend and he was always there to see me say what I had to do. It was never enough. I always ended up poking a finger through the TP and they never had soap. I had to wash my fucking hands with shampoo. Once it was dog shampoo. Lol, I hated it there. I had a friend whose parents would lock her in her room at night. As in, the lock was on the outside of the door and once she was in for the night the door was locked and there was no leaving, even for the bathroom. Holy shit. Okay, some clarity. I think I was like 8, so I don't know if kinky sex was involved. This was the 80s, so it wasn't as frowned upon. Plus, as many of you say, sometimes there's a reason for it. I didn't know these kids very well at all, and didn't get to know them beyond this weird thing with the doors. All I remember was that the door was locked at night once they were in for bed. I remember asking about the bathroom and I feel like she was just like we go before bed. I always woke up in the middle of the night to go, so it stuck with me. She obviously saw nothing weird about it. I can't remember if I slept over, but I was a huge chicken and hated sleeping over other people's houses, so I don't think I did. I do remember being frightened about fires happening though BC it was a fear of mine that I would be away from my family and either they would die and leave me alone, or I would die and leave them. IDK. I was weird. She and her family were weird, and I didn't hang out with her for very long. I think they only stayed in my neighborhood a few years before moving. My friend's mom wouldn't let you have a drink at the dinner table because she didn't want you to fill up on water and not finish your food. It didn't matter what it was, or if you choked, no liquid until after dinner. She would also make you eat everything, or she would save it for you to finish later or just wouldn't let you leave the table until you were done. I grew up in Mexico. My school had a lot of exchange programs abroad, so in 9th grade, I went to Boston. I stayed with a guy from the HS and his dad. Pretty weird family. But the strangest thing was that his father told me that I could not flush pancakes in the toilet. He literally meant pancakes. It was not a euphemism, because I asked his son about it, and he said yeah, there was an incident once. Growing up, myself, and often with other friends, would do sleepovers at a buddy's house. He was a bedwetter and wore diapers to bed, but we were cool with it. Never any teasing or anything. His mother would demand that we all wear diapers to bed when sleeping over, which was odd, but it made our buddy even more uncomfortable about his situation. Poor dude would apologize constantly about the fact that we had to use them too. Anytime I was over at their house and we would go outside and play, I would have to knock on the door each time to come back in, even if I had been there for a while, or if I had just walked in with their kid. Their mother kept tabs on exactly how much I ate or drank while I was there and expected me to work for whatever they had given me. I had accidentally left something by the door and I realized after I got a few steps away from their porch, so I just opened the door and reached in to grab it. Her mother grabbed my arm and jerked me back into the house and screamed how I was a guest at their house and that I was to always knock before entering, how I was a rude child. She didn't care that I was just there and what I grabbed was mine, etc. I had known this woman my entire life. We lived in the same neighborhood. She knew all of my extended family and treated me like I was some stranger. That was my last day playing over there. One of my friend's mother had some borderline obsessive rules. No walking on the carpets. You must remain on the strips of clear plastic carpet protectors instead, which were arranged to create walkways round the house. Guests must wear slippers. There were spares if you didn't bring your own. The leather sofas must remain completely covered in sheets to protect them. Even the dog was expected to follow these carpet protector paths and was constantly being told off for stepping off them. I understand wanting to keep your carpets and furniture nice, but this was crazy. You couldn't even see them under all this ugly protective stuff. Plus I nearly fell down the stairs wearing oversized slippers and tripping on this protective plastic mat that was draped down the staircase. I was also constantly getting in trouble for not following the correct route around the room and instead walking straight to where I wanted to be. She would literally check for footprints on the carpet. My grandparents had a very specific order that food should be eaten. We are a big English family and tea would be served at 5 PM or so, after lunch at 1 PM. Plates and dishes would be placed on the dining room table all at once, but could only be consumed in the correct order. Sandwiches first, then sausage rolls / assorted savories, then sweet foods. It's only so strange, because after my generation, 16 of us, my grandmother now couldn't give less of a shit, and all the rules are out of the window, especially for great grandchildren and our spouses. We are just pretty bitter that we would get such a telling off for eating a sausage roll before a sandwich, since now apparently you can have chocolate biscuits before 2 PM. Anarchy. I live with my grandmother and our house has 2 bathrooms. One bathroom is her bathroom exclusively, and the other bathroom is everyone else's bathroom. If you use her bathroom, you're shunned from seeing her or being in her home for life. My cousin and her 3 kids, her great-grandchildren, have been banned from seeing my grandmother ever again because we completely forgot to tell my cousin's ex-husband about the bathroom rule. It's not a loss, cousin, and kids are better off without her.